Hey, what's up, YouTube family? I hope everybody's doing good tonight. I am Mike G, and you are back with me on the other side. I hope you are ready for a story that few people will ever hear. This is a story of unimaginable heartbreak, unconditional love, a life taken, and a life lost. Tonight, we'll hear from a man who did what he had to do to protect the ones around him when no one else would. If anyone has ever had a reason to give up and say, I'm done, I can't do this anymore, it's Harvey. But that's just it. That isn't him. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to bring you Harvey Seidel.
Thank
How are
you.
you, man?
Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. We met I don't know, a couple months ago on another person's page. I just think in the comments saying hi to each other. I had seen you enough.
Yeah.
You had seen me enough. Um, it probably took about a month before I started watching you. You were maybe the second or third person I started watching. And what drew me to you, as much as I like flash and craziness, you appeal to the people in my neighborhood. You're just a normal guy. There's no flash, there's no gimmick.
Right.
It's just you and your experience, and that's something that draws me to you.
Yeah,
Um,
what you see is what you get.
yeah, yeah, be yourself. Um, Tell us where you were born.
I was born in a hospital in Rolla, Missouri. I think it was called Rolla or Phelps County Memorial Hospital or something like that. But it was in Phelps County in
Okay,
Rolla, Missouri. It's a college town. But I grew up south of there, about 20 miles south of there on a farm.
okay. What was family life for little Harvey?
Oh, it's great. Had good parents. Ran around on the farm. I loved my brother. He loved me. Sometimes to the point of annoyance. We was always around one another. But yeah, everything was great. I made good grades in school. You know, and I mean, it wasn't nothing dramatic like I was leading a life of crime or nothing. I was just a farm boy growing up in southern Missouri.
Man, that's the life. My dad grew up on Bull Shoals Lake, so I understand where you're from, and my wife's from West Plains, so I totally understand. And you and I think are how far is Fayetteville from you?
Springfield is about 50 miles from here, from where
Okay,
I'm at now.
okay, 2 3 hours. Um,
Yeah.
I wasn't able to get a lot of research online about anything that happened to you before the reason we're having this interview, the story that you were going to share with us. Um, you maybe want to tell me where the first signs of problems or things being, you know, not the way they should. When did that arise?
Well, it's when my distant cousin moved to the area. He moved like 5 miles up the road from us. And him and my brother never got along. He was 22 years old, and my brother was 14. And he was always picking on my brother, but I thought it was I just thought it was physical abuse. And whenever I saw it, I'd stop it.
Hmm.
But I didn't know anything else was going on, and I don't know how many times it went on. But it was in the summer, late summer of '87, and we'd all been out drinking. And the next day, he comes out of my brother's room, and he asked my dad to take him home. And I go in there, and my brother's crying. I finally get out of him what happened, and he told me not to tell nobody. I had to tell somebody. I ain't just gonna keep quiet about that.
Yeah, man.
I, have you lost your mind? You expect me to be quiet about this? No. So I told my parents, and they did not believe me.
Oh,
And my
brother.
brother and my brother was ashamed to say anything. He didn't want to say anything. He got mad at me for him saying
Yeah.
anything to him. But they thought I was making it up because I didn't like him, and I really didn't like him. He's always picking on my brother. So a few days later,
Harvey, if you
that
don't mind, I want to interrupt you for just a second to let people kind of get a chance to comprehend what I'm about to say. I want you to be as honest and open as you possibly can, Harvey.
I
Harvey's
gotta get away
probably
from
going
this
to say
mold.
some things that some people may find shocking. Just a just a warning.
Yeah, yeah. It's bad. For me. Well, for me it is anyway. Um, but anyway, a few days later, a retired cop who was a friend of the family came, and after he got done visiting with my parents and he was leaving, I told him, I'm thinking, being a retired cop, he would tell his friends in the police department. That's what I thought. No, he went right back into the house and told my parents. My parents, they wasn't believing me, and they was
Twice
really
as
mad
bad
now.
now.
Yeah, it's twice as bad now. They're really mad. Because I'm telling other people, and I'm making stuff up according to them.
Starting
So
rumors.
yeah, just because they thought I didn't like the guy, and so it was in November. Um, I mean, I've been building myself up to say something to this guy. I hadn't seen him for a while. I was trying to stay away from him. I was telling my brother to stay away from him. But in November, he came down and he wanted to go deer hunting. And I thought, well, I'll just talk to him. I was actually at a friend's house, and that's where he came down to. I said, well, I'll just talk to him on the way back to his house. I couldn't build myself up to say anything to him. I couldn't, I'm thinking, how am I going to even approach him with this? We get to his house and we decide to go hunting, but I ain't really hunting. I'm just, in my mind, I'm thinking, I gotta confront him about this.
Hmm.
I'm not really thinking really about shooting him or anything, really, but I wanted to confront him. So I went to his deer stand where he was at in his deer stand. You're from Arkansas. You know what a deer stand is.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, some people, may not,
I know where
but
a lot of deer stands are.
so he's up in this tree and I'm down on the ground and I'm already crying when I walk up there. I got tears in my eyes.
Mhm.
And I said, man, why did you do this to my brother? And he says, oh, and I was kind of to the side of him and maybe just a little bit back when I asked him this. And so he kind of turned his head. He goes, oh, look at the little baby crying. He goes, I find it funny that no one believes you, you know? He goes, yeah, that's right. He said, your parents told me. And he
Mm.
goes, man, he goes, quit crying. He goes, or I'll come down there and you'll be next. That's exactly his exact words. And I said, you'll never hurt my brother again. And that's when I shot him.
Mm.
And I fell to my knees. I don't know how long I was on my knees. I was crying. I cried till I couldn't cry no more. And I don't know how long I was there. But this was in the late afternoon. And I finally got up and walked back to his house. And when they asked about him, I pretended like I didn't know where he's at. He's still hunting as far as I'm concerned. But that was bad. You know.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry that you went through that, man. I'm sorry that nobody had your back in that moment. Um, but I'm not sorry that you took care of your brother.
Right.
How
Well, you know
much?
what?
Go ahead.
But I still think about this today. Why was he even up there taunting me? I know he had a gun, but I had a gun too. He's up there taunting me.
He was
Laughing at
used
me,
to
crying.
people not standing up to him, man.
Yeah, and that's one thing that always gets me. But anyway, what was you going to say?
I was just gonna move on to what happened after that. I'm assuming it wasn't too long after that you started to having to talk to people real quick.
Oh yeah, it was it wasn't long.
Yeah.
And they if you listen to the prosecutor, if you could hear the prosecutor, what he said was kind of true, but it really wasn't either. He was telling them that I stalked the guy and shot him because my lawyer tried telling him, this is why he did this. And the prosecutor said, well, even if that's true, he waited to months after the fact to do this.
Right.
And he stalked, which is true. It wasn't like I just waited 3 months. I had a whole bunch going on in my mind, but he said he waited 3 months after the fact, and he stalked him in the woods, and he shot him in cold blood. I mean, there's some truth to that, but it's not really the whole truth. You know what I mean? I didn't stalk him. I might have shot him in cold blood, but that was out of anger.
Sure. Yeah. I that's that's probably the anger you felt in that moment is probably a level of emotion that most people will never experience. I don't think I've ever felt that kind of anger, and I've been through some stuff too. Nothing nothing like that. I can't imagine it.
Yeah, it was crazy. But I didn't help my own case any. I let I let two guys and my brother, two guys that was in the pod with me. It was like a 3-man room.
Hmm.
I let them and my brother talk me into trying to escape.
Oh man. That's that always works out well.
Yeah, and that's why I still kick myself in the butt for that one. Uh,
Did you have
they
a
was
plan for where you were going to go?
well, I'm gonna light out for them Ozark Hills.
There you go, man. So when it came time for your trial, your arraignment, your trial, how did that go?
Well, I ended up because they was trying to give me after I tried escaping, they was trying to throw the book at me on everything.
Hmm.
So I ended up taking a plea for a life, and 5 ran together. The 5 for the attempt to escape, and the other guys, they got it too. They got the attempted escape too. The other 2 guys. My brother got lucky. He got community service for bringing me to Hacksaw Blitz.
Then I got an episode of Andy Griffith playing in my head right now, Harvey.
Right. But my brother, I asked him years later. I said, "Why do you want me to escape?" He said, "Man, because you did this for me, and I did not have your back then. You know, I could have spoke up too, and the whole situation might have turned out different if I would have just spoke up." Uh, but he said I was ashamed. I was just ashamed. He goes, "I'm still kind of ashamed to talk about it."
Sure.
I said, "Well, that's understandable, but you kind of left me out to dry."
Yeah.
but
All
but
right.
he was
So
there.
the plea you took, how long after that was it before you? I'm assuming you sat in county for a little while, went to receiving, sat there for a while, and then
Yeah,
where were you sent first?
I was sent to Fulton Diagnostic and Reception Center, uh, which is in northern Missouri, north of Jefferson City. And it's just at that time it was the only one. It's just where anybody being sent to prison, they had to go through there first.
Sure.
Yeah, and they classify them, find out where see where they're going to send them and everything. Do all these tests on them, and now there's like 3 of them in the state, but at that time there was only one. and so everybody went there. You know,
Right. What um what was it like walking through the door the first time?
at
And
Fulton
you at
or
Fulton, yeah. You were 17 still when you went into Fulton?
yeah, I was still 17.
Ooh.
Um, it was. I wouldn't say I was. I was nervous, but I wasn't scared yet. I wasn't scared until I got hit Missouri State Penitentiary. But it was just weird, you know, because they you really don't have time to do anything because it's like day after day they're taking you over to do tests. That they see where your education level is. They do all these medical tests on you, all these mental tests on you, uh, all these different things. You know, it seems like every day you're talking to somebody,
Hmm.
and so it really nothing really has time to sink in. You know.
When you got there, I've heard stories of guys that go in and it takes a long time to find anyone that they might even consider, sharing of their middle name with, let alone any sort of friendship or anything. And then you hear about guys that pretty quickly, an old guy that's been down for a while will see something in him and actually, try and help him out. Did you experience those sort of things?
I experienced it as soon as I got to Missouri State Penitentiary. Almost as soon as I got there. Now it wasn't exactly when I got there because when you first get there, I first got there like it's just like everybody's watching you and see how you're going to be, you know. But it wasn't long. A bunch of these old heads took me under their wing, and I'm glad they did. But it was more. It was also kind of aggravating because at times because they treated me like a little brother, you know,
Sure, yeah.
like a kid brother, you know. They
Pick at
toss on my
you.
hair, yeah, and because they said I shouldn't even be there.
Yeah,
One
yeah,
of them
you
told me,
shouldn't be.
he goes, one of them told me, he goes, I've been involved in crime all my life. If you add up all the time I got, he goes, I got 300 years and I deserve every damn bit of it. He goes, you do not deserve to be here. And he said, that's why we're trying to help you out. He goes, just listen to what we say, pay attention, and we'll try to get you out of here alive. Yeah.
No, do you ever wonder what it would have been like if they hadn't been there?
Oh, it'd been a lot worse. It'd been bad.
Mm.
It would have been. It was just. I'm just so thankful to him, you know. And one time, this guy, I got into it with this guy, and one of these old heads put a uh, shank in my hand right before we got into it. Another guy jumps in just as we start tussling and fighting, knocks me off of him, takes the shank and tells them to get me out of there. And so he goes to the hole for stabbing this guy, and it should have been me, you know. But after he gets out of the hole, I didn't see him for a long time. After he gets out of the hole, I walked up to him. I said, you know, I'm not a punk. You know, I'm
Yeah.
kind of naive on where he's coming from, right? You know, I'm
Hmm.
wondering why did he do this? You
Right.
know, when the whole time up until then, him and all these other ones that's telling me, you know, stand up, you know, stand up to people
Hmm.
and stuff like this. And now he does this. I said, you know, I'm not a punk. He's sitting in his bunk, you know, it's bars in front.
Hmm.
He gets up real slow, walks over to the bars. And he goes, I didn't do that because I thought you was a punk. I did that because I want you to go home. You little fucking shit.
Oh man, that's wild. Um, what was what was the first? Everybody talks about the first time they witnessed something or experienced something or heard something that really drove home the fact that you are locked up, you are stuck, and you really no longer have the same control over your life and future that you used to.
Well, at Missouri State Penitentiary, it was something going on every day, you know. So as soon as I got there, I knew, and I'm not, you know, I'm in a bad place. But probably the worst one, the one that really stuck home, and I still think about today, is I was coming back from chow, and you know, like I said, in bars, you got these tiers. It's 4 tiers high, and this kid, I lived on the bottom walk. As I walked onto the walk, for some reason they called the bottom walk the flag. To this day, I don't know why, but he had tied 2 sheets together. He tied one end to the rail, the other end around his neck, and went off.
Mm.
And so I was just like, oh, you know, I was shocked. You know, I was just looking.
Sure.
But what shocked me even worse was everybody around me saying, "Man, don't pay him no mind, man. Keep going, man." You know, and they were saying, they was calling him names and stuff, right? Like hoes, punk, snitches, this and that. So I found out later that his canteen had been robbed, and he went and told. And instead of beating his ass for telling or anything, they raped him. A couple of them raped him, and so that's what caused him the jump, you know. But that one sticks with me, you know. But it was a few days after that that I'm in my cell and I'm just staring out, you know, because there was a guy that had been fighting and he got hit with a mop wringer and stuff, you know, and they was cleaning it up and stuff. And so I was just kind of staring. And my cell, he says, "Hey, man, quit spacing out, man. You can't space out in here, man." And he goes, "What's going on with you anyway?" I said, "Well, you know, I was just thinking, I got a life sentence, and I don't know when or if I'm getting out." He goes, "Yeah, that's true." I said, "And I don't see anybody making it out of this place alive."
Man.
He goes, "Well, there's people that do." And I said, "Yeah, it ain't looking very good though." And he goes, "Well, you know, you can't be thinking like that, you know." He goes, "Are you all right? Are you good?" And I said, "Well, I'm thinking, ain't nobody can say any damn thing to me that I don't like. You know, it doesn't look like I'm going to make it. So I'm coming to the conclusion that anybody says anything disrespectful, I'm going to deal with it." He just kind of nods his head. He goes, "All right." He goes, Are we done?" I said, "Yeah, I guess we are." He goes, "Well, let's change the subject and smoke one." And he pulls out a joint and we smoked it.
Never a dull moment in there. I can't imagine. How long does it take to, or do you ever get to the point to where you can wrap your mind around a life sentence?
You know, I think I knew I had a life sentence, but I don't think it ever really clicked on me that I had a life sentence,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
Uh, it's kind of weird, you know. I mean, I knew I was sentenced to life with the
But you didn't
possibility of
accept it.
parole, but it was like, I don't know. It's just like, it
Just didn't
just,
seem real.
yeah, it just didn't seem real. Just like when I got out, first day I got out, it didn't seem real. But yeah, it was just, but you got to keep your mind focused and keep focused on other things. You can't be, when you're in prison, you can't be thinking about the outside all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that helped a lot too. I seen a guy that he was a good dude, and he was all right. He was sane. And when they transferred a bunch of us to Farmington, that was his hometown. And he used to go out and sit by the fence and just stare outside the fence. And he eventually lost his mind.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, literally, he went crazy. So when you're in there, you got to stay focused. You got to stay busy doing things.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not saying not to write your people, not to call your people, not have them visit or anything like that. Well, I'm saying don't be thinking about the outside 24/7.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm sure that drive you crazy.
yeah.
How many different institutions were you in during your time locked up?
Well, I can name every one of them. I, not counting Fulton because I really don't count that. Um, there was the Missouri State Penitentiary, and from there I went to the Farmington Correctional Center, and from there I caught a number 3 there of dangerous contraband, and they sent me to Potosi Correctional Center. After I dropped my level again, I went to Northeast Correctional Center. Everybody calls it Bowling Green. They call most of the prisons, except for Missouri State Penitentiary, by the city they're in or the town they're in. From Bowling Green, they raised everybody's level because they said they had level 4s in South Central Correctional Center or Licking, Missouri,
Hmm.
and that they had to make it a level 5. So they raised everybody's custody level for no reason and sent us there to South Central Correctional Center. The only good thing about that was it's like 25 miles from home. You know,
More visitors?
yeah, more visitors, yeah, and
Wow.
some of the COs end up was a couple of the COs were I went to school with.
Oh, that's got to be nice and I don't know, the opposite of nice at the same time.
Yeah, I had to get onto one of them. I didn't really mean, I was trying not to be mean, but every time he'd come by my cell, he'd stop and want to come in and talk. Right? I said, "Look, you
One of your
can't be
friends?
doing." Yeah, I said, "You can't be doing this." He goes, "Why not?" I said, "It's against your policy," and I said, "It's against the convicts' policy. They're going to think funny of me talking to you like
Yeah.
this." And he said, "Okay." I said, I'm not trying to be mean or anything. It's just that it's bad on both of us. You could get
Yeah, that's
fired for
not a
this.
good look.
Yeah.
How do you go from being sentenced to 5 plus life to maybe s- reaching a point where you see a possibility of being out again?
Well, I knew I had. It was my 6th parole hearing before I was granted parole. I knew on the first one I wasn't going to get it. The second one, I was thinking, well, there might be a chance. The third one, I started having more hope. But there's a saying, at least in the Missouri prisons, uh, hope for the best, but expect the worst. You know,
Yeah.
and so that's kind of the way you got to look at it. But on my last one, I went up there. I was only in there 5 minutes. They really didn't even talk to me. They just said, "Oh, you're here. Do you got anything you want to say? You got any questions or anything?" And they said, "Look, your victim's family." They said this with a smile. They said, "Look, your victim's family didn't show up," and that was about all it was said. And I walked out. And I told my cellie, wasn't only my cellie. We pretty much grew up together in the prison system together. So we was almost like brothers.
Hmm.
I said, "I have a good feeling about this." And he goes, "Man, don't get your hopes too far up, man." I said, "I know, but I can't help it. I have a real good feeling about this." And he was just he didn't want me to be disappointed. He thought I
Yeah.
was getting my hopes up too much. And I ended up getting a date, but it was still like 16 months away. I didn't
Longest
care.
16
I got
months.
a date. Yeah, it could have been 2 years. I got a date.
Hmm. Now, I've heard before that when you get that date, it's not something you want the whole world to know you're happy about, or maybe even that you're aware of it, at all.
Yeah, but this one ended up. I wasn't going to tell nobody except for Marcelli, who was like a brother. But
Right.
the institutional parole officer who was rooting for me um, was really hoping I would get a date. And so, right about the time they called lockdown, they called my name to go back here to the office. Usually, they give you these at mail time, when mail is passed out. He called me back there at the caseworker's office, and the IPO was there, and he goes, "This is hot off the press. I wanted to give it to you right now. Is this what you was looking for?" And it was the date, right?
Hmm.
But when I go back in, everybody is just kind of watching me, and they're wanting to know why I was called back there.
Yeah.
So when they let us out for lunch, a bunch of them came up and was asking me, and so I told them, if I didn't tell them, they're going to think, well, what are you doing back there then?
Hmm.
You telling on somebody? That's the way these people think.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
even, even if they've known you for years, they get suspicious,
Yeah.
And so I didn't have no problems. I had one surprise. I was out in the yard with some of my workout partners, and I seen a guy that has never liked me. I've been in prison with him for years. He's never really liked me. We never fought or anything, but he he couldn't stand me, you know. And I seen him walking towards me, and I'm thinking, oh man, he's going he's going to start something now that I got a date, you know.
Yeah.
So I went and met him halfway, and I was telling these other guys to watch my back, and so I walked up to him, and he has his sunglasses on, and he just stares at me a long time. And he takes them off. He goes, "I don't really like you. You know this. I don't care if you like me or not." He says, "But we've done a lot of time together." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "I may not like you, but I respect you." He goes, "Congratulations on getting a date. Now get out and don't bring your ass back." And he turns around and he gives me a little fist bump and turns around and walks off and just leaves me there flabbergasted, you know.
He didn't like you till you were going away. Oh, that's crazy. So, what was your last day? What was it like your last day when you knew you had one more sleep and one more wake up?
Well, by then I was back in Farmington, and I was in the laundry section. But one of the guys I'd done a lot of time with, he was my bunkie. We're in a room, so there was like several of us in this one room, and so the day before I had to take all my property to the property room, so I didn't have nothing except for my state sheet and pillow and the stuff the state gives you.
Had you already
And
given everything out to your friends?
a lot of it I had,
Yeah.
yeah, and I gave a lot of it away. But he, so he and I just talked because we knew each other for a long time and watched a little bit of his TV. And the next, I couldn't really sleep, but I finally did get to sleep. And the next day, they called me at 7. I think it was around 7:30. I cannot tell you. I woke up around 6, I guess, for a count, and I stayed up. I could not tell you how long that hour and a half was.
I can't imagine.
It was crazy, and and then my bunkie, the guy I knew a long time, and another guy I knew, they walked me to the property room, and then I was getting paperwork and having to fill out paperwork and going from one room to another and finally to the visitor room, but and they had clothes for us there, if we needed them. I did not know it was going to go from. This was in November, and it was like 70 degrees that morning. I mean, it was odd for it being that warm.
Hmm.
And the CO said, "You want a coat?" I said, "No." He goes, "You're probably going to need one." I'm thinking, dude, it's 7 o'clock in the morning and 70 degrees. I ain't gonna need a coat. It's gonna be warmer the more the day goes on. No, no, there was a cold front moving in. It got cold quick. You
Um,
know.
so you get your stuff, you say your goodbyes. Were the I always wonder how are the guards that you've lived your years of your life around. Um, in that moment, is there a change in them when you are walking out that door? Is there a certain level of respect that goes up, or is it we don't care, another one out, another one's going to come in?
Well, it's funny because me and this other guy was waiting out front for our rides, and
Hmm.
as we're waiting up front, COs are coming in,
Hmm.
and the ones that were cool and never caused you no problems or anything, they saying, "Hey, glad you're getting out, congrats and everything." Right? You kind of expect that from them, but the ones that were assholes and jerks, they said the exact same thing, and damn well they did not mean it. Because
True to the end.
right, you know, I am told
Wow.
one of them. He goes, "Hey man, glad you're getting out." I said, "Are you really?" Because it didn't seem. I said, "You seem like a completely different guy than the guy on the other side of the fence." And he goes, "Just doing my job." You can do
Yeah,
your job and not be an asshole.
that's exactly right. Uh, I've always been told the number one thing in lockup anywhere is respect. So
It's true. If the CO showed me respect, I'd show them respect. You know, and you know, part of that showing them respect, although it seems funny to some people, is not being in their face all the time. You know,
yeah.
you know, Uh, most COs
Did
do
you?
not like that.
Yeah. Did you have a good support system set up for when you got out? You hear so much about guys that just go right back in the revolving door. I imagine a huge part of that is having a good group of people to be with when you get out that help you and support you.
Well, my home plan was with my brother. And
The same brother.
yeah, the same and only brother that passed before I got out. But yeah, I had plenty of family and friends. That and people that supported me. Through the years and stuff. So I don't think there would have been a problem if one hadn't worked. I could have found another one.
Right.
You know. But what's got me is people that didn't know me before, like in this town here that I live in now, have come to know me, and they support me too. It's
Mhm.
just amazing. You know,
That's a
I
good
I, I came
feeling, man.
I came out of prison thinking that people that have been in prison is going to be looked down upon, and that your PO is going to be trying to send you back to prison. That's what I heard while I was in prison.
Sure.
It's not true, at least not with me. You
That's
know,
good.
yeah.
What would you if you could go back to 17 and change anything about how it all went down? What, if anything, would you change? I'm sure there would have been at least one thing you would have done differently.
Yeah, I would like to think that I wouldn't do what I did, because yeah, let's see if I can say this right. I do not regret protecting my brother. What
Amen.
I do, what I do regret is the pain and grief that my actions caused others.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
That's
It caused
repentance.
everybody. Yeah, it caused everybody a bunch of pain. Not just the guy that shot's family, but my family, the community, and everybody.
Hmm.
So if I could do if I could find a way to protect him without doing that, if I could find a way to just make people believe me,
Hmm.
then I would definitely do that. You know, because I ain't talking about my incarceration. That caused people pain too. I'm just talking about just the pain in general of
Hmm.
my action. It's not really worth it. I don't think. I can understand anybody, wanting to protect their loved ones, from something like that, and I can't blame them for doing that. But
Right.
they need to be prepared for a lot of pain that will cause. You know,
Mhm. If you could, leave a message with maybe someone who, when they were a child, was abused, that's never spoken out, someone who knows someone that's being abused, who's scared to speak out, what would you tell them?
there's a couple things I want to say on this. First of all, I want parents to believe their children when they say something bad like this is going on. I mean, if it comes out later that they're lying, deal with it then. But
Hmm.
believe them initially. I mean, please
Yeah.
believe them. Those who are afraid to speak up, they need to speak up. You know, I don't know when I found out about this, what happened to my brother. I don't know if that was the one and only time or how many times it happened. You know,
Right.
and he never did tell me how many times. Um, but please speak out. You know, and if you don't trust your parents, you go straight to the police. Not retired cops that may be friends of the family or friends of. Go straight to the
Hmm.
police. And that's what I would do.
Yeah,
You
and
know,
everybody needs to know that that's not snitching. That is not what snitching is.
no, it's not snitching at all. If I see a kid being kidnapped and thrown into a car, I'm going to remember the license plate and I'm going to go straight to the cops. You can call me a snitch if you want. You know,
Yeah.
those type of
Yeah,
people are not
I'll wear
friendly.
that hat all day.
Yeah, damn right. You know, um, I'll protect the child, not even mine. I'll go out of my way to protect the child. And if you say calling the cops on a chomo is snitching, then so be it.
Yeah,
I don't really consider chomos really human beings. They can't be if they're hurting children.
that's
You know,
exactly right, Harvey. Well, this is it's going to take me a minute to process this, man. This is a wild story. I want to thank you so much for sharing your time with me tonight. Maybe one or two more questions. Um, Tell everybody what you have going on today. Tell us about your YouTube channel, where I met you, and just what a regular day in the life of Harvey is.
well, my YouTube channel is Harvey Talks Prison. I actually got started on a platform called Quora where you write answer questions.
Yeah.
And and then everybody there, as well as my family, wanted me to do YouTube. I did not want to do it. They talked me into it, and because I didn't want to be in front of a camera.
Right.
And but I live in a small town in uh, western Missouri, north of Springfield, and work every day. Sometimes even on weekends. When I'm not expecting to. You
Right.
know, but I enjoy my life. I enjoy my freedom. I don't take anything for granted anymore. I mean, when you walk out on the front porch with a cup of coffee, real coffee,
Yeah. Real
you know what I
coffee.
mean? Not instant coffee. That's life, man. You know, no matter what bad you have going on in your life, you're not in prison.
Yeah,
Enjoy that coffee.
that's wild. That's a hell of an attitude to have, man. Um, Tell people other ways they can follow you. Are you on Facebook, Twitter? What can
I'm on.
fans of yours do to interact with you?
They can find me on TikTok, which I'm not on there too much anymore. Uh, Under Harvey Talks Prison. They can find me on Facebook, Harvey Talks Prison. Uh, Also as Bernie Seidel. Uh, that's and Quora. I'm on Quora as Bernie Seidel.
Okay.
Um, I have an Instagram, but I'm gonna be honest, I'm never there.
Right.
You know, but that's where you can find me.
Gotcha. Harvey, it has been an honor and a pleasure talking to you tonight. It's also been an honor and pleasure just getting to know you as a person. This is our first time seeing face to face, but we've been chatting for a while, and I
Yes,
consider
we
you
have.
a friend, and I hope you
Yeah,
consider me one as well,
yeah,
man. If you ever need
you're a
anything,
good
I'm
dude,
only a
man.
couple hours away, a half a tank of gas. Just holler, man.
All right, bud.
All right, you have a good rest of your night, man, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too.
All
All
right,
right.
thanks.
Bye.